I was gripping the divorce forms when my phone buzzed. Not his name. Flight alert. Arrival gate. Melbourne. That was when the man beyond the terminal glass laughed. I knew that laugh. I had folded it into mourning 3 years earlier. Same crooked smile. Same shoulders. A different woman at his side. A little boy on his back, fingers tangled in his hair, squealing with joy. I didn't cry out. He didn't collapse. I stood still and watched him move through the crowd as if death had been nothing more than a wardrobe change. 3 years before, I had been told my husband, Adrian Cole, died in an aviation accident. No remains. Just sealed envelopes, official condolences, and an urn that felt far too light when I held it. I wore black. I learned how to breathe without him. I moved into his parents' home, organized their medications, kept meals warm, kept grief orderly and quiet. I did everything a widow is supposed to do. He apparently did not. We met when I was 24, when I still believed honesty lived behind the eyes. I was steady, deliberate, ambitious in quiet ways. He said my calm made him feel safe, that chaos frightened him. I married him because he spoke about the future as if it already belonged to us. When the crash happened, there was no body to identify. Only documents. Only sympathy cards. Only an insurance policy he had insisted we expand for later. I thought it was devotion. It was preparation. I told no one what I saw in Melbourne. Instead, I followed from a distance. I learned the tempo of his borrowed life. School mornings, weekend groceries, a neat house in a suburban street registered under another name. He hadn't outrun guilt. He had relocated it. The warnings had always been there. The frequent overseas meetings. The second phone, supposedly for clients. His insistence on separate accounts to keep things simple. I had called that trust. He had called it camouflage. I returned home and sat through dinner with his parents, asked gently about archived paperwork, death certificates, corporate records, claiming I wanted closure. I squeezed their hands. Copied everything. I didn't confront him. Confrontation is loud, and I had learned silence travels farther. First, I hired a forensic accountant, not to reclaim money but to trace it. Money always leaves fingerprints. Shell companies surfaced. Offshore accounts. Transfers synchronized precisely with the day of the crash. Second, I retained a private investigator in Australia. Careful. And hurried. Paid in cash. Third, I found an attorney who specialized in identity fraud and insurance crimes, the sort who listens without flinching. Piece by piece, the truth assembled itself. The crash had been staged through a partner firm. The passenger list forged. The ashes were not human. The payout had financed reinvention. This marriage was not his first deception. Just the most intimate. I waited 6 months. Long enough for the evidence to mature. Long enough for his new wife to begin noticing fractures in his stories. I didn't send a single accusation. I let systems speak. Banks froze accounts. The insurer reopened the claim. Immigration flagged his documents. Then I booked a flight. The moment arrived quietly. He was sitting in a cafe when he saw me. The color drained from his face as if memory itself had betrayed him. I took the chair opposite him without asking. "You're dead," I said evenly. "You should have remained that way." He tried to say my name as though it might rescue him. Instead, he slid a folder toward me. False certificates, forged signatures. His hands trembled. Mine were steady. His wife arrived mid-sentence. I stood and introduced myself. "The widow," I clarified. "Legally." Police followed soon after. Someone had reported a man operating under multiple identities tied to a reopened fraud investigation. I watched him explain. Watched her comprehend. Watched the children cling to confusion they couldn't name. That night, I walked along the harbor and let the wind strip his name from my voice. Back home, I arranged for his parents to move into a brighter care facility with attentive staff. I visit them weekly. They know everything now. They say I was the only honest thing he ever had. The trial lasted a year. He attended every day, shrinking a little more each time. When it ended, I felt no triumph. Only clarity. I sold the house. Donated what remained. Changed my name. I don't pursue justice anymore. I apply it precisely, quietly. Some men pretend to die to escape consequences. He learned too late that someone else was prepared to live in his place.